What's your individual superpowers?
Do you know weird creatures is called autism?
So we're in the superhero territory. Okay.
Just keep setting these defects.
Guys, are you listening?
I just suspect confusing, aren't
Friends are forward, I want to cheer you up.
Thank you for joining me and my guest on the Downing Cut today. We are going around the world, over to UK, and my guest is Rick Stanton, who is a self-representative filmmaker with 12 years of experience directing commercial and branded content for major brands like Virgin Atlantic, Apple, and Universal Music. Inspired by his personal journey growing up with his autistic brother, he created a heartfelt short film, Spectrum, to share that lived experience. And it is amazing. And we're going to talk about that film. Rick, thank you for coming on to the Downing Cut. How are you?
Very well. Thanks for having me today.
I appreciate you willing to take some time, because we're in totally different time zones, to be able to come up and just be a guest and chit chat, talk about what's going on. We're going to dive deep into your experience, and I'm impressed. I've seen your website and I'm blown away. I'm like, wow, this guy, we'll talk about how you found me, and because I'm like, what? No. You got talent, my friend. You're inspiring. You're what most filmmakers are trying to reach. And so I just want you to know that you got some skills.
I appreciate it.
But I want to find out, how did your journey start? What led you to the film industry and production and the whole thing, that writer, directing, producing?
I suppose it started when I was a child, really. I just loved movies growing up. Like, it was always, I'm nearly 40 now, so I'm of the era of still getting like the TV guide when it comes out, and then circling all the movies that are on that week, and then either taping them or watching them, being excited about that. And then as I was growing up, basically when I was about 9 years old, I had what we call a pirate copy, which is obviously illegal. But we had a copy of Pulp Fiction, which had just came out, and I was probably about 9 or 10. And I watched that when I was 9 or 10, which sounds ridiculous now. And after watching it, my dad said, if you like this, you should watch the guy's first film, which was Reservoir Dogs, obviously. So we watched it the following night. And then that's kind of a triggering moment, I think, for me, because that was the sort of proper like adult movies that I was watching. And then that really sort of inspired me to just love absorbing movies as much as possible. And then it kind of advanced into like, because my dad was young when he had me, so he was like 20 or so. So because he was still sort of a child himself, to be having a 10-year-old, it's kind of at 30, he basically educated me on just sort of all the Scorsese movies, Brian De Palma movies and stuff like that. And it just sort of kept going. Every single week I'd go to the video shop and just absorb as much as I can. And it was just always a subject matter in my teens of like, me and my friends would just chat about movies every single day. And then, but we never made any movies. And then when I was about 15, I sort of taught myself to edit on a copy of Adobe Premiere, and I was making like skate type videos or Jackass type stuff. And that sort of taught me how to edit. And we would make like little kung fu movies in the garden, and go into like Bruce Lee stuff at that time. And I think it's sort of similar time as The Matrix was out, so we'd try and do like some fun effects things, Dragon Ball Z sort of fireballs in the garden, just having fun really. But that sort of led on to when being an adult. I never went to college, never went to university. I just left school at 16, started working in like warehouses and factories and stuff like that. But then I got involved in like the London music scene. It was like a big indie music scene at the time. Like Amy Winehouse would just be in the pub and things like that. And basically what happened was me and my friend of mine started running like club nights around London, like indie nights, putting on bands. And my friend started managing one of those artists, and they got signed to Universal Music. And then from that, I started to do little things with him, like little tour videos and stuff like that, just for fun, really, just to have adventures, essentially. And then I got involved in like the same company that managed that artist, they used to manage Amy Winehouse. So I filmed Amy once, and then they also run like a big music festival in England. So I started filming at festivals, and it just got started to get known in like the sort of Universal sort of Sony landscape, and then just started filming loads of pop bands and just all sorts of stuff. And it sort of just rolled on from there to do sort of commercial branded content stuff. And then with that as well, I've just started to do my own personal projects. I've done like 3 short films now. I've also DOP'd a feature film. And yeah, it's just sort of rolled on one thing to the next really, and just sort of saying yes to opportunity. Lots of that work would have been doing it for dead cheap or for free. And it's just because of love of doing it really, and love of learning and just being out there in the world. And I'd always say to young people, like, the best advice is just, if someone gives you an opportunity, just say yes, even if it's not necessarily a field that you think you want to work in. It could be, do you want to come and help me sort out my mum's garden? Just say yes, because you might fall in love with it, you know? So yeah, that's a big sort of learning for me, is just, there's an opportunity out there, just go for it.
That's amazing. So let's go back to when you were younger doing like Dragon Ball Z. You were already playing with like special effects.
Yeah, we're just sort of, not, I suppose special effects, you're just seeing what tools you had. So basically there was a thing on Adobe Premiere then, which was just like lens flares. So it was just essentially meant to be used as a lens flare, but we just animated it to look like a fireball, because it just gets bigger as it comes towards the screen or whatever. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Why not? You know, it's just, that's how things are invented, I guess.
That's great. So your experience with working with these artists, getting into the music scene. I mean, there's a lot of famous directors that started off with music videos.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of their jumping point. How did you get those gigs? Was it something that just led to one to the next and the next? And were you working under someone else, or were you still independent, or how did that all?
I've always been fully independent. So I've never been represented by anybody. I've always just done it myself, essentially. And it's just like, because I was running those club nights where you're putting on like small indie bands, and then what happened is 1 or 2 of them might get signed or whatever, and because they've known you from previous, or just through like, you have an idea for a song and you just approach them and say, look, I heard X track, do you want to do a video together? And then everybody's going to say yes, and then you essentially give them your idea. And just because you want to make stuff, like music videos is a great way in, not necessarily to get a big opportunity in life. It's more the fact of your own learning, because it's like there's no rules essentially. Like if you do a drama, there's sort of ways to make a drama, to tell a story. But with a music video, it can look incredible or could have artistic license to look terrible, and it's because of you're trying something new, And so it's like music video is a sort of great art form because it's less restricted, You can just anything goes, and which is great, and it's a lot of fun because of that reason.
Yeah, your imagination is just at the full spectrum.
Yeah.
So how does we talked a little bit about spectrum, and we're going to dive more into that. And it's really just kind of when it comes to filmmaking and that idea, a lot of it, how did you pick up the skill set? Was it just you're just trial and error and doing it? Or did you actually study anything? Or did you look at tutorials or read a book?
No, it's just sort of trial and error, I think. Because of my sort of show reel is very broad. Like it has like documentaries on there. It has like live music. It has like music tours. It has videos like in a chef's kitchen, or like or maybe not one day it'd be like just in some corporate videos of a business owner talking in a suit, So it's very broad, and that sort of taught me a lot of lessons. For example, in our film Spectrum, most of the actors, and especially the lead, have never acted before, never been on camera before. And that comes from my skill set of working with people who are just people that work in an office doing a corporate video, because you're working people that are not used to that environment, and you have to sort of learn that skill set of making people feel comfortable and drawing the best out of them, what they're bringing to the table. And that's how we sort of made this film, is leaning into people's strengths. And that comes from the years of working people who have not been on camera before. So it's every sort of job has even if you think, oh, I'm doing this boring corporate video with this guy who works in sales, for example, it's still a great lesson in terms of how you're going to direct something in the future, because it means someone who's not necessarily as comfortable, you've already sort of worked out a way to get the best out of them.
So in Spectrum, you said that nobody memorized lines. I read a little bit about what you said, and I saw it. Mm-hmm. There's like 1,000 questions I want to ask you about it. But how did you work with the cast then if there were no lines to be learned? Did you just steer them in a direction and then you would edit? Like, were you constantly rolling?
Yeah, so basically what happened was I wrote the script, which is, the Spectrum is a half an hour film. I wrote the script with in mind that my brother would play the lead who has autism. I put myself in a corner essentially because I wrote the script and was like, really want to make this. I hadn't spoke to him about it yet. I just was like, oh, okay, I need to go and now approach him and say, look, we do want to do this project together, blah, blah, blah. And essentially what happened was I knew that for him to have like a 20-page document to read, and it's highly intimidating for even an actor to sort of try and get new material. So I thought, I won't do that. What I'll do is just explain to him the premise of the film and what the story arc is of the character. And then what we did is when we started shooting, because we shot very out of sequence as well. So it'll be, I know we're going to do, say, 3 scenes this day. And what we'll do is we'll just do 1 scene at a time, just take it as 1 scene at a time so there's less pressure of what's coming up next. And what we'll do is say, this is the premise of the scene. You 2 characters are talking about this, and for example, there's a scene when one of his friends is trying to persuade Steve to wear a suit to go to a job interview. So it's that with that, it's like, okay, you guys play PlayStation, just hang out, and Kyle, your job is just to just ask Steve what's he going to wear for a job interview, and try and persuade him that he advise him to wear a suit rather than what he suggests. And that's essentially it. And then what we do is just roll 2 cameras all the time, and just see what they come up with. And then what would happen every single time, because a lot of the cast members are also neurodivergent as well. So because I've known some of these people for maybe 15, 20 years, I know what they're probably going to come out with to an extent. But then what would happen is they'll give you a curveball, but that would be like the golden nugget, because then you're like, oh, okay, that's amazing. Let's lean into that more, because 1, it means their performance is honest because you're getting an honest answer. And 2, it just really makes that whole film of the feel of the film feel naturalistic, and that's what we wanted to go for. We kind of wanted to toe the line between sort of, is it a documentary? Is it a drama? Is it a sci-fi? It's sort of meant to be a multi-genre film. And it works because of that reason, I think, because people are bringing stuff to the table. And I would always want to work like this, because as a filmmaker, what happens as well with independent film, I think for a lot of people, is they put so much pressure on themselves for it to look and feel like a big Hollywood budget movie. And then what happens is when they get to shoot it, it becomes a disappointment to them because they put too much emphasis on like a real direction of what they want to get. So with this way of working, it means you go in kind of blind, and then you come out of something better than you could have ever wrote anyway, because of what people are bringing. When you've cast somebody, you've cast them for a reason. It's because of what they're bringing to the table, and I think that's a great way to work.
What did your brother think of the whole filmmaking process?
It was just fun. Like, we just had fun every single day making the film. Like, not only my brother's in the film, our mum in the film is our real mum. She's not an actor, she's just our real mum. Yeah. The aunt in the film is our real aunt. Steve's friends in the films are all in the film is all his real friends. So it just was just fun the whole time. So when we finished shooting, the last night of shooting that we did, the next day the guy I shot the film with, who's been my friend since I was 11, he texted me the next day and was like, I feel sad. And I was like, what do you mean? He was like, because it's over. I just want to, do you know what I mean? We don't get to just hang out and have fun with everybody again, like it's done now. We just have to get on with our lives, So it's that thing of like, it was just such a great thing to do because there's no pressure on it, If nobody ever watched the film, it's just we've had a good time anyway. It's the journey of making the film. It's quite cliched, but it really is because, we've had a joint experience now all together, and we just had a great time making it.
And you edited it, correct?
Yeah.
Tell me the reason why you went black and white.
So the reason we did black and white is because people with autism often have like a black and white way of thinking. So that's why we wanted to keep it on that that look to it. And also spectrum as a color spectrum is all the color of the spectrum, and we wanted to strip that back to not have any reference to that. And also the film, I don't know if you know, but the title sequence of Spectrum of the film is actually the loading screen from a ZX Spectrum from 1984, and it's loads in the same way the video game console used to. And it's because of all reference to that. And another thing is we used the sound effect. There's some sound effect used when we're sort of in Steve's mindset. It's quite an uncomfortable sort of sound, and that's the loading sound of the ZX Spectrum as well. Because I've always wanted to use that in a film at some point, and then I was like, this is bang on the nose of being on the spectrum, but it's only if you know. Do you know what I mean? And a couple of people have noticed it, which I love, like Easter eggs in films. You know, everything should have many layers to it, and that's one of them.
Yeah, just amazing. Now you have different hats: a writer, director, editor on projects. How do you balance the roles to maintain that cohesive vision?
I suppose basically a few years ago, I put a thing out on my Instagram saying that I was looking for scripts because I was like, oh, okay, I want to be a director really. And then when people were sending me material, basically I'm dyslexic. So basically when I was reading people's scripts, I found it quite hard to connect with their material because I saw it as like, oh, this is your material, you should make your thing. So after that sort of process of looking at maybe 10 scripts, I was like, oh, you know what? I need to just do my own stuff because it's about the connection for you, because it takes a long time and a lot of effort and constant thought to do any project in film. Like it's really hard. And so unless you're in love with it, it's really hard to, especially when you're not getting paid. Do you know what I mean? If you had the incentive of getting a nice little pay packet at the end, I'm sure that would help being connected to anything. So I was basically like, oh, okay, for me to connect to a material, I need to write it because then you fully understand it. That's like when we did the shooting, I never took a script with me because I know it off by heart. You know, I don't need it with me because I can just say what we need to get, and I know what is important to me to get because I've lived with it for months. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah,
that's how you connect with it. Like, and with the editing process as well. Like when you're shooting, you know when you've got what you need because you know how you're going to cut it together. Like the editing is probably the most important skill in filmmaking because you know what it is. You know what the final product is. So like when we're shooting very out of sequence, my friend who I shoot with all the time, when we was making it, he didn't really know what it was. You know what I mean? Because it was so out of sync. He was like, I showed him it the first time, the first rough cut, he was like, oh, okay, I now understand what's going on here because it's fully formed in your head. You know what I mean? You've already watched it essentially, and that'd be like when people say to you, "Do you ever have any advice for people that want to get into film?" My advice is learn how to edit, how to cut a sequence together. Even if you're just filming yourself, make a cup of tea. Learn that process because then you know about coverage, and then you can then piece it together many different ways, you know, because essentially you're making a puzzle, but sometimes the picture you're thinking you're going to make, you get an extra piece and you're actually, if I add this piece to it, it changes the whole tone of the film and it can push you into a better direction. So as long as you know about how editing works and how coverage works, then it sort of sets you up for every other process, I think.
Have you ever been in front of the camera?
No, not really. The only time I did another short film, which was a horror film, where there is a shot of me because we had a shot where the film ends with like a serial killer who's got somebody who's hung in front of him, and nobody that I knew wanted to be the person to stand on the chair and have a rope around their neck, even though it's a fake effect. I was like, okay, I'll just do it then. So I'm in the shadows there and I'm hung, but really I'm just fully standing on the chair and the rope is not properly on my neck. It's just masked out. And anyway, no, everyone was like, I don't want to do that. So I was like, I'll just do it.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
So like the dirty work, I'll do it. Fine.
Mhm.
What would you say is the most challenging story that you ever told, and how did you navigate the emotional and creative complexities that were involved?
I say this is the toughest one I've done because my other shorts are like 5 to 8 minutes, but this is a full half an hour, and it's got a full story arc of a really developed character. There's lots of things going on. There's lots of like red herrings throughout the film where you think the story's going to go one way and it doesn't. For example, there's just a note that a letter, sorry, that the mum is reading about a hospital appointment, and that's just trying to show depth of the lead character's world. But some people are like, "Oh, what happened with the mum?" And you're like, "Well, that's not the story. The story is about this character." Do you know what I mean? But that's making you draw you into the feeling of it. So I suppose this is like the biggest project I've done personally in terms of that of how because I felt it was really important to have it so multiple layered that you're kind of writing backstories by just a shot of a scene to sort of fully develop and develop and develop. And that's what the difference is between an average film and a great film, I think, is that level of detail. So like every single moment in the film is highly thought out. So for example, there's a scene in it when we're very much in Steve's head and his mum's talking about like a crack in the ceiling and everything around them is falling apart. And there's a TV show on the background, like a crap TV quiz show. And like, for example, that show is called Tipping Point. I don't think you have it in America, but in England it's called Tipping Point.
Mm.
And that's because in the scene, it's Steve's tipping point for his moment. So in England, people go, oh, that's tipping point. And that's referring to Steve's tipping point for his emotion in that scene. And that's all thought out because it's all designed that way, you know, like the design of the film is really important. And so it's like that thing of like overly thinking every single moment rather than just going, oh, in this scene, this happens. It's no, every single detail has to fully form the experience. And hopefully that comes across to people.
That's awesome. How would you say, because you're over the UK, how does the culture shape? Like, I'm not well versed in other cultures and countries.
Mm-hmm.
I was, when I was younger, I was just born here in the US. But when it comes to films, like you just said, some people, they have that vision to make that Hollywood type film.
Right.
How does culture play into your vision of films and stories? I mean, is it mainly like, are you just in your own culture, or are you thinking, well, people in the US are going to like this, or people,
Right.
In Italy are going to like it? Like, how does that develop in your head?
I suppose for my previous shorts, it's been kind of a more of a American way of thinking because obviously American films are arguably the biggest films in the world. You know, obviously there's Bollywood and films in Nigeria and stuff that are huge markets and stuff. But that's sort of how we've been brought up in England as well. It's very like American way of telling stories. And I've previously sort of lent into that more, I guess. But with this one, because it's such a personal story, it's a story sort of led by my brother about a lot of his own experiences and also my experiences as well. So with this one, it was like, we want to make a very British working class story. Yeah, so the influence, obviously everyone has American influence because that's sort of the main source of material that everybody sees pretty much globally. But with this film, we wanted to make it a very British film. There's a lot of sort of British reference points. And because it's like a very working class story as well. So like in England, we have like council flats, which is probably like the projects, I guess, how people refer to America. And that's where we grew up and that's where we're from, I like to joke that when I grew up, the closest person I knew in show business was my dad. But that's because he worked in a porno warehouse, like stacking mags and VHS tapes.
Yeah, let's go into that. How did you get that job? And
yeah, that's another story, I guess. But that's just like working in a warehouse, like stacking magazines and VHS, getting them sent out for delivery in the 90s or whatever. But
wow.
Yeah, so we did want to make it a very British film, especially because one of the reasons the film's half an hour was to essentially use it as a calling card to say, like, look, as a director, I can make a half-hour episode. Because obviously, like, big shows often have multiple directors who you don't know. They're not famous directors in terms of, like, pop culture, but they're famous in terms of industry. And I just wanted to show that I could do a half an hour. I can tell a fully formed story, and one with a multiple arcs, and I just wanted to showcase what I can do, and that's why we did it that way. And I'm just really happy with it, and people in Britain sort of really understand the pub scene, for example, is a very sort of British culture sort of reference point of British life. You know what I mean? It's like a depiction of what British people see as a good Friday night.
And then your aspect ratio, right? You
Mhm.
did 4:3.
Yes, and that's for because basically within the character of the lead character, he's essentially boxed in. He's not been given any opportunity in life, so his world is very small. His horizons haven't broadened yet, so that's why we chose to do it like that. I don't know if you noticed, like during the sort of big event moment in the end, the aspect ratio changes to full cinema scope, and that's because he's heading towards an opportunity to prove himself, and his horizons are being broadened in that moment. And also, it just looks cool when you're the audience. It draws the audience in. When I watched it the other night at like a screening with like 100 people, and
Nice! Congratulations.
yeah, so with that, I could see there was a mirror underneath the projector, and I could see the audience's faces, which was really weird, like quite a thin mirror, but I could see a few people. And as soon as it transitions into that scene at the end, everybody changes, and you can really feel it, and you can see it on their expressions that people are really drawn in. And when you open it up like that, people are even more drawn in because it's like, okay, we're turning into the feelings completely changed now. We're turning into like a new experience. And I was really enjoying watching this lady's face, like as she was getting taken into the film, which was amazing.
Wait, did you ever submit it to festivals or anything?
I submitted to a few festivals,
Okay.
but I'm not too worried about that. My main thing was I just wanted to get an audience. I wanted to put it out there as soon as possible because I just want people to see it. Where festivals is quite restricted because obviously if you have a festival run at any scope, first of all, I don't really agree with that you have to pay to enter a festival. I think it's diabolical. I think it's a huge money-making scheme for most people. And my film's difficult because it's a half-hour film, right? Where at a festival you probably have like a 2-hour window of putting short films on over, maybe might do 2 sessions, where if I'm taking a quarter of the time, most festivals will be like, oh, I'd rather put on 2 films in that time, or 3 films, or 5 films. You know what I mean? So I kind of wasn't too concerned with that when we first, and also financially, realistically, if I was going to pay like £1,000 to submit to loads of festivals, I could probably make another movie with that money, and I'd rather do that. Do you know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, and we've had like 16,000 views now, so that's like selling out Madison Square Garden. Do you know what I mean? So,
how did you, when it comes to editing, did your story stay intact, or did you start changing some things?
No, the story stayed pretty much how I imagined it, to be honest. Like the feeling of it and the story was always sort of well thought out before we even started shooting. I knew even like the sort of tone of the music that we was going to go for. So like basically, because we shot very out of sequence and we shot over a long period. So we shot over 8 days, but only 1 day a month, just because essentially it was just me and my friend who shot the film. We did most of the sound, we did most of the lighting for 70% of the film, and then we got a couple other crew members on the bigger scenes. And because of that process, it meant I would come back, I would edit the scenes, and then I'll know like, oh, okay, this is working. And then when we shoot some other scenes the next month, it'd be like, oh, okay, we can lean into people's strengths a bit more with this. This wasn't really working. It took some time to pull something out of one actor, but on the next time we do it, we know how they work now, and then we can sort of manipulate that to sort of get there quicker, essentially. And so it was a great process working like that, because as we went, we were editing it and long in advance. So when we shot the final scene, a couple of days later, the full film was together because we'd already basically made it, and it's just filling the blanks as we go, sort of thing, which is a great way to do it. And like I said, even the music, the tone of the music, I had already had a placeholder on the first ever scene, which we shot and I edited. I was like, oh, okay, this is the sort of tone, because you can feel it already. And then we just replaced it with some music that we made ourselves. And once we did
Very
sound
cool.
design, yeah.
Yeah. Wumi Masaki, how did you get her on your film?
So Wumi's in one of the first scenes in the film, which was obviously it's a very sort of important scene because it sets the whole film up. It sets up the disability aspect of the film, and essentially I've known Wumi for 15 years or so, through I've just known her, but we've never worked together. I've just we just hang out, we go to parties together, and we've just been friends for 15 years. Me and my partner, who's also the producer of the film, we've just always been friends with her. And she lives in LA now, and we've been out to LA and seen her and stuff. And basically, she didn't know about the film though. I didn't mention the film to her because she's in LA. Do you know what I mean? Whatever. And then when I was prepping that scene which she's in, I was like, we're going to do this next week or whatever. I said it to my partner, who's the producer, and she was like, Wumi's actually back. She's back in London for 2 weeks. And I was like, okay, amazing. So I was like, we need an actor to play the support worker. We haven't cast it yet. I was just going to do a spotlight call out or whatever. So I just texted her and said, Wilms, we're doing this film. I think I sent her one of the scenes that we'd already shot and was already edited. And I sort of gave her a paragraph. I sent her a paragraph, the overall sort of arch of what the film's about. And then she came back to me and said, basically, she was here filming, essentially. She was filming a show. I can't remember what show it was. It might have been Loki Series 2 now. I can't remember. But basically what happened was she was like, I've got a day free on this day, but I've got 1 hour window, because she had builders in her house and da-da-da. She had lots of stuff going on. She was pregnant at the time as well. So she was a lot going on in her life. She was like, but I can give you 1 hour. If we can do it in an hour, then let's just do it. And I was like, an hour's ample. I could do it in half an hour if we have to.
Yeah.
But then I just organised the shoot just like normal. And then she came down. We did it we shot for an hour, and she was on her way. And that's all we needed anyway. And yeah, and obviously it's incredible having Wumi in it because obviously she's just been in Sinners and she was in Loki, both seasons of Loki. She's also in two episodes of Black Mirror. She's won a BAFTA. And so, and to have the actor of that level really just elevates the film. You know what I mean? It makes it so people might watch it for a reason to watch it. Okay, this has got some credentials to it. And also it's just great having somebody control that scene because in that scene, we run it like a real support session. So I gave Wumi questions and I was like, you're a support worker. Your character's really warm. She's a heart of gold type character, very sort of giving. And here's the questions that I've wrote, just run the session. And then she just essentially was like, yeah, fine. She run the session. And then we've got honest answers. And then the way we'd work as well, if any actor sort of took it too far from the plot, we'll then just pull it back and say, okay, no, you need to be more this sort of focus to keep it on track. And then lots of that you just find in the edit, but then you pull stuff out, which is, you get incredible lines that way. So yeah, it's great.
So in 1 hour, you have multiple characters. You have two cameras.
Yeah.
So are you just doing wide shots? And
so what we did when Wumi was there is we both shot Wumi doing the questions and getting all of the questions, loads of goes like that. And then quickly turn if she's not speaking. And then what happened was when Wumi left, we just pretended that Wumi was asking the questions. And then we'll just shoot the people answering, talking to her. Basically, one of the people in that support group session had a support worker with them because they've got MS. So we just got the support workers to sit in the chair and ask the questions. And then we just don't see her on camera because we're just shooting the close-ups of all the people answering those questions.
That's awesome. How did you authentically represent the neurodivergency and personal experiences without falling into cliches or stereotypes?
Yeah, so one of the reasons we made the film in the first place is because with autism, I've always felt like on TV and in films, it's kind of been represented in a sort of childlike manner. It's very considered cute, or like in shows say Love on the Spectrum. It's very much presented in a way where it just feels like, aren't they cute? What a nice guy. Where with my experience with my brother, I shared a room with my brother until I was 25. So we're just living together every single moment. And basically his problems, his feelings, his range of like emotions. He's just like everybody else. So I was like, oh, that's just how it should be presented. It's just when certain challenges come to him, they're just a bit more difficult, or he sees them slightly different to how we a normal person would see. Do you know what I mean? So I wanted to represent that. You know, like in the film, a big storyline in the film is Steve's just trying to get a job, which is a challenge for everybody. You know, and with that, it's just like that's just a normal thing. And another thing is there's like a love interest in the film as well, just like everybody else has. There's socializing in the film, just like everybody else has, where that's not normally typically depicted. You know, we just wanted to show a regular guy who just so happens to have autism. And it's never said in the film that Steve has autism. Like, it's never mentioned. The only time autism is mentioned as a word is somebody refers to as a superhero having autism. See what I mean? It's kind of...
Right. I didn't even think about that.
So it's kind of like meant to be like that, because what happens in real life is if you go out today to a coffee shop and you meet somebody who's has autism, you just go, oh, this guy's got something going on here, but you don't necessarily go, do you have autism? Or he doesn't go, I've got autism. It's just, you have a slightly different conversation, you know?
Yeah. Interesting. Did you think that when your audience, did it open up some stereotypes or bias that people have? Did they start to go into more of an empathetic mode and truly understanding? Did you ever see that or any feedback?
Yeah, we've had a lot of feedback, like on our YouTube, like on the video on the YouTube. We have a lot of responses from people that have autism, or people who have disabilities, or people that know somebody that has autism or disabilities. And lots of it is referencing, there's a scene in it a very simple scene on paper, where Steve just goes into a shop and buys a pint of milk, right? And then has trouble with working at the money, working at the change. And on paper, that is such a boring scene to put in a film. Like, a guy goes in a shop and it's a scene for, say, 2 minutes, and that's it. He buys a milk. You know, that's such a regular occurrence for everybody. But that was a really important scene for me, because it's like, this is the reality of life for people, you know? And that's the one we've had most comments on with people with autism. They're like, oh, this is a daily occurrence to me. This is how I feel every single day. These little things are such a challenge to me, and people don't realize that. And that's the sort of, when you wake up in the morning, you've got a new comment like that on the film. That's when you sort of, it really warms your heart, because you're like, oh, great, this is connecting with people, you know, and that was the aim. And it's giving a new light for people that aren't around people with autism. For example, if I tell someone who I've not met before that my brother has autism, I think they think he's going to be a child, and he's obviously not, you know what I mean? Like, he's 36. Like, but people think, in their head, they're like, oh, okay, you've got a younger brother. And it's like, well, he's a couple of years younger than me. He's 36 years old. He has a job and he has relationships and whatever. Do you know what I mean? So, so that was important to us. And we really appreciate when people do leave the comments like that, because that's why we've become filmmakers. You know, we want to touch people. You know, we want people to think different about next time they meet somebody with any disability, that, oh, okay, I'll give you a bit more benefit of the doubt, or I'll give you a bit more time, a bit more patience with people, and hopefully that connects with people like that.
Yeah. So, Rick, how do you stay motivated and inspired in your creative vision, working across different genres and formats and branded content to a deeply personal film, but yet still, you know, out and about in the industry as well? Like, how do you just keep on going?
I think it's when an idea just hits you, you know, like, people are famous for, like, musicians always talk about finding a song in the shower, you know, like, or when they're just driving and then something comes to them. And I think it's that when, like, sometimes you might not have any project in idea of what you want to do next, but then you might just have an experience that you just go into a coffee shop or a pub or something, or you meet somebody and then they say something and it just triggers your mind, and then you can't get it out of your head, and you're like, oh, okay, this is something, and then you can't get rid of it, and then after a while you're just like, okay, there's something here, let's do something with this. So, like, my next thing, I'm just going to do something next week, which is going to be just a video, which is just going to be a 1 minute little film, and it's going to be a crossover between film in real life and an AI film. So there'll be shots in it as special effect shots that are fully AI, but we will have a real actor in a real car, for example, driving, but then we're going to use AI to show a car chase. And it's just that thing of excitement, because of obviously AI is huge at the moment and it's a new tool. For me, it's just like being given a new pencil case with new coloring pens in. You've got a new paintbrush to work with. And it's like, oh, okay, I can see an idea that I can have some fun with. And it's just enjoyable, you do it because you enjoy it. Nobody really, I don't think, gets into the film industry for the money. You get into it because you love it, because it's too hard otherwise. If you didn't love it, you wouldn't do it, because
we hope the money comes.
Yeah, you hope the money comes with it. But
most of us have day jobs. And
at the end of the day, you would do it anyway because you love it. Do you know what I mean? And when you get inspired, it's out of your control, really. You just have to get on with it, because what else are you going to do in life? You know what I mean? Sit on the couch and just watch everybody else have fun. Like, no, you need to get out there and do it yourself.
How do you measure success from your films, from the audience reaction and personal fulfillment? Like, is there something entirely that you go, okay, this was good? Like a music video, for instance. I mean, when you've done music videos, how do you know it was a hit? How do you know it worked?
With a music video, it's tough, because if you did a music video and you get a lot of views, that's not necessarily because the video is good. It's just because people like the artist. They're not watching it because of the video. They're watching it because they like the song. So it's hard to judge in that sort of sense. But it's little things like, for example, I did do one music video once and then I had an email from a college student, and they're like, oh, I'm doing a film course at the moment and we had to make a music video, and we had to study a music video, and I'm doing your music video that you made. Can I ask you some questions of how it was made so I can write it into my homework, essentially, you know what I mean, their project. So then obviously that's when you really feel like it's success, because it's connected somebody that's like enjoys it that much that they want to write about it and put it into their work. They've studied it now and gone, oh, okay, how was made, and blah blah blah. And then that's the biggest sort of success, because it's not necessarily about a monetary value or anything like that. It's more like if you connect with someone. I've always said the thing I want in life, right, is to be on the bus and then you hear somebody talking to their friend and go, oh, did you see this thing? And they don't know you're involved at all. You're just there and you listen to them and go, oh yeah, it's really good. You should check it out. That would be the biggest compliment, because it's kind of reached outside your remit. You haven't had to like send it to hundreds of thousands of people and hope they watch it. It's just a person has watched it by chance,
Yeah. I'm trying to think of, there was it was one of the clips, I think, on social media, and there's an actor, someone had gotten the actor's character on a tattoo on their arm. And the actor, I can't remember who the actor was, but he's like, hey, go check out this guy's tattoo. And the actor, famous, looks at it, goes, wow, that's really amazing. Starts asking the guy questions and how he got it. And the guy's like, yeah. And he answers the question. He goes, are you done?
Right.
And he goes, yeah, I'm out of here. He didn't realize that was the same person.
Yeah. You've inked yourself. You've put it on your body your whole life. And you had the opportunity to meet that person and you didn't. When it came to walk by, that guy now is kicking himself.
So one of the tips that you gave at the beginning of our interview for people who want to get into the industry is learn how to edit.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that resonates with you for someone who wants to learn how to be a director, a writer, an editor?
Right. I suppose it's don't try to make something that's out of your scope. So this is a kind of classic thing of like Robert Rodriguez used to talk about this in his book and stuff, of if your uncle owns a bar, okay, now you got a location. If your granddad plays the flute, now you got an interesting thing to put in the bar. If your friend got an interesting face, put them in it, like just use what's the tools around you already. You know what I mean? You don't have to, because in a film or a video, whatever, you need two things. You need someone to be there, and they need to be in a location, right? So if you have a location, sort yourself out a location, use your own house, your flat, your bathroom, like, and then you just need to put someone in there. So then just use what you have. So that another film that I did, which was the horror film that I said about, the short horror film, we filmed it in my own flat, because it came about because I woke up at 3 a.m. once and I got a glass of water and I could see my own reflection in the window and I startled myself because I thought it was someone outside. I was like, oh yeah, my house has kind of got a lot of windows. It's kind of, someone could easily be in my garden and I wouldn't know because it would just be because the darkness is there and I can only see myself. So then I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. So just use what tools you already have. You don't need to try and think of some big idea just use what's already available to you. And you've got a phone as well, so you don't need fancy equipment. You've got a phone now.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So just do it on that.
With AI emerging and people, having that access to bigger production stuff, if you will, I feel like there's going to be a lot of emergence of people making films and doing things. And obviously it's not going to be, I think there's still that missing piece. I watched an AI film by, what's that guy's name? He just made one. It's Cabin the Kid or something like that. And he used real actors to do the lines and recorded them. It was SAG approved. And then they had the emotion, but there was still some kind of human element that was missing from it, from the actors, even though they recorded the actors doing the lines and the emotions and all that, it just didn't transfer over to the AI, and mapping their face. Even though, I mean, that's pretty much what Marvel did with their films too, but it was interesting that there was still something missing. And but I just feel like that's going to open the door more as AI gets better and people start implementing that. How do you feel about that when it comes to actors? And then there's one question that I missed in the beginning is, how do you know you have a good actor? What do you think separates an actor that makes them a really good actor from the basics?
I think it's the role. So, like, for example, with our film, when we pull it out onto Spotlight and then we get self-tape sent over, excuse me, what happens is you get, let's just say you have 10 actors for one role and they all send their self-tape and they say the same lines. And what happens is when you push play, within seconds, before they even open their mouth or they say one word, you know they are, because it's just, you feel it straight away. And it's not because they're a bad actor. It's because they're just right for that moment, for that part. It's just, this guy, this lady, they've got something that I've been looking for. And it's not necessarily that they're bad. The other people are bad. It's just because you've had something in your head of what you're looking for. And when they deliver it, you're like, that's it. That's what I've been looking for. Oh, wow, that's even better than what I've been looking for. Because they just bought it for that role. Do you know what I mean? Like, you could play certain roles, but you couldn't play certain roles. And it's not because you're a bad actor. It's just because it's not the right part for you. You know what I mean? So that's what I think. Yeah. I feel sorry for actors because of this, in a way. Because it's not that they're doing bad jobs. It's just that it's a feeling. It's the same thing of if you're attracted to your partner. When you meet your partner, the classic thing is you see them across a smoky room or whatever, in a bar or whatever. And it's not because you know them. You don't even know them at this point. But it's just something that draws you to them. And it's not that they're the best looking person in the world or anything. They're just another person in the bar. But something draws you to them. And that's the same, I think, with casting.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah, it just happens. And with the AI question, so I think it's really interesting with AI at the moment because I think it's really exciting because it does open up a lot of possibilities. And I feel that in a certain amount of years, filmmaking would just be something else. Filmmaking in general is only 120 years old. It's just it's a relatively new thing, but video games is only 40 years old. VR games are only 10 years old. It's always evolving into some new art form. And I think filmmaking, as we know, it will just become redundant. And it'll just be a new thing. It'll just be a new way of experiencing entertainment. Like, there's a good Netflix episode where, on Black Mirror episode, where essentially when there's a show of like a a thriller, instead of it being Brad Pitt in Seven and Morgan Freeman running around, it's me and you, and it puts us in the film because then you experience it in your own way. It's just our faces on their bodies, and then you are drawn in because it's like you're watching yourself. You're one of the characters, and I think that things like that will happen because it's already happening already with like deep fakes and all sorts of stuff. And all it is the technology to, before you start watching a piece of entertainment, whatever it is, they take a photo of us, and now we're playing the school teacher or whatever, and do you know what I mean? You can customize your own experience. Some things like that will evolve, and it will just evolve into different things, and that's fine because the reason films are there mainly is mainly to entertain. Do you know what I mean? When you get home after a hard day, you chuck a movie on, it's because you want to escape into something else. And does it really matter how you're escaping? Like it's just another form of being entertained and escapism. So I'm not too scared of it because by the time it reaches to what that level that I'm talking about, that'll be our grandkids or great grandkids anyway, and they won't. It'll be like, do you know what I mean? Are we going to go? Are we that interested really into going to watch somebody to make a sculpture? Not really. You know what I mean? It's just progression.
There's times where I have that idea, like you said, we're driving, and you just come up with this idea, and you're like, oh, that'd be great, and you're like, I can't pull over. I'm not going to write it. Like I'm going to record it. I kind of wish I had something connected to my head where I could just think it and it would just go into the system. And then, even the creation part of it's like, why can't I just think it and it'll happen?
Yeah, but that will happen because, you know what I mean? Like, say, for example, storyboards years ago, when you do a storyboard for a client or like a pitch for a client, was really difficult because you're trying to grab images and stuff to say your idea. But it's never going to be what you're showing because you're just grabbing images from a random other video that's already been made or a film that's already been made. But now with AI, if you have an idea for something, you can literally say what the shot is and go, okay, this is shot 1, this is shot 2, this is shot 3, and it looks pretty much how the end product will be. Then you just have to go and shoot it, but the understanding is straight away there. And that's what you're saying. Like if you have an idea in the car, and if you can just get home and go, oh, my idea is this, this, and this, and this. I need storyboard it for me, please. It will storyboard it for you because
there you go.
It is. Do you know what I mean? It's all, and everything's been done before, isn't it? Everything is not that original. So
all these remakes. Yep.
Yeah, it's just drawing from something else. So, and it's just done and told in a different way. But yeah, it's interesting, I think.
What would you say is the most constructive criticism that you've ever received in your career in the film industry that really helped you kind of evolve and stretch?
I think it's that thing that I said earlier, how trying to think too big and looking outside of, like trying to sort of inspire to be like a big Hollywood movie and stuff like that, and trying to sort of emulate things that are out of your scope. I think that's the best advice. Someone's just like, no, you don't, like, you already have stories to tell. Like when you're just chatting to me about your life or what happened to you last week, that's the stories. They're the stories you should tell because you can draw from it best. You know all the reference points and you know what's funny about the story and you know how people speak about that story and how the dialogue would naturally happen. Rather than being like, oh, you're trying to make a sci-fi movie on Mars or whatever, when you don't know nothing about that. Do you know what I mean? Like, why are you trying to do that? Make a film set in a community because that's what you know more about. Draw from. I think that because I think at first everybody wants to make that big spectacle when really, like I've got a friend, for example, who's talks to me about making films at the time, and he did a job once where he delivered a boat from the Bahamas to Spain, right? So they sailed the whole way, like on a 5-man crew on a boat, and they sailed for like a couple of weeks or whatever it was across the ocean to get to Spain. I was like, why are you telling me about these stories? That's your story. That is a crazy, like nobody has like stories like that. So that's your story. Tell a story on that boat. You know what I mean? You could do it quite cheap if you just have a boat. You don't have to go out to the Caribbean. You can just tell a story of being in the darkness on that boat because it's going to be, I don't know what that story is because I haven't been on the boat, but you have.
Yeah. Right? So as a director, what genre would your life be if someone were to direct a film about you?
of my life. I think it just has to be like a multi-genre film, because that's what all lives are, right? Sometimes you could wake up in a comedy, and you can end in a horror, like instantly, because that's what life is, you know. Like I could
Yeah.
leave you now, and you think, oh, I've had a nice time talking to this guy, blah blah blah. I'm just going to go and get some dinner, and then on the way to dinner, you could break your leg, and now you're
Right.
in the horror film, right? And that's how things happen. They just happen instantly, and
Yep.
that's what we've tried to do with Spectrum. But in the big ending of the film, spoil it to your audience, but the lead character basically leaves a pub and walks down the street, and then he witnesses a woman who's being brutally attacked. And some people have said to me like, "Oh, that's not how film should be, because we don't know nothing about that girl. She's got no depth to her character." And I was like, "Well, in real life, they don't know each other. But what happens is they meet. This is how they meet, because of this moment. You know, this is how real life works. You know, like if you've ever had an accident, that wasn't because of any reason. It just happens. You know, and these things do just happen like that. And it doesn't always have to be structured in a typical way to meet a character. You know, and we don't ever have to meet that woman again in the film if it carried on, because that's not how it actually happened. Because basically, the reason that ending happens is because that happened to me in real life. 15 years ago, I was walking home at like 2 a.m, and then I heard some screaming. I run over to see what's going on, and a woman had all blood on her face. She was on the floor. She'd been attacked. And then when I was trying to help her, she was pushing me and kicking me away, and the police came and put me in handcuffs, put me on the floor. And then a witness came down and said, "No, this guy's got nothing to do with it. You've got it all wrong." And then they just let me go. I never found out what happened to that woman. Didn't know what happened to her then. I never seen her again, and that was it. You know, I was just left with that, and that's how we made it in the film.
Wow, that's your true example of just putting what you've experienced into a film, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, Rick? What's next? Anything you're working on now or in the near future? Like what's on the horizon?
So the big thing, the plan is at the moment is to try and extend the 30-minute film that we've made into a feature film. Nice. And this will just be done with a re-edit of the current film and linking the lead character's story with two other characters from the support group session. One person that has Asperger's and the other who has MS. And what would happen is there'll be three sort of interconnecting stories that all run between each other and link. And we've already started to outline what those stories are. And I just need to essentially finish the scripting of it to then start shooting it, essentially. But everybody's on board and everybody's happy to go for it once we can find the time or maybe a bit of money to make that happen, because currently the film costs £5,000, which I paid for myself because my grandmother died, and it was a choice, make a film or go on holiday. So I made a film. Yeah. So, but I don't have unlimited grandmas, you know what I mean? So I need to either find some money from somehow to make the rest of it, or figure it out.
What would you say is one of the most useful favorite film industry related tools or technology that you've used on a constant basis?
I suppose for someone starting out, I'd say just get like Davinci Resolve, because it's free. Get Davinci Resolve, you'll learn everything you need to learn on there. All the tools is available to you there. And also, if you've got an iPhone or an Android now as well, you can get the Davinci app, which is basically like having a cinema camera in your pocket. And it means you can choose lenses, you can choose ISOs. It basically works exactly the same way. I would say they're the best tools out there because it's free. It's completely free, and you can learn as you go on those tools. And you don't have to. And nowadays, obviously, with YouTube, there's a million tutorials on how to use those things. So you could literally have no knowledge on Friday, and by Monday, do you know what I mean? You could be an expert, essentially, which wasn't available when I was younger. Do you know what I mean? Like when I learned to edit when I was 15, there wasn't any YouTube or anything like that, no books or nothing. I just opened the software up and was like, all right, figure this thing out. And now it's a lot easier to learn in any sort of field. Do you know what I mean? Self-learning is so important. So just absorb yourself in tutorials and have fun with it, and then try and enjoy it. Do you know what I mean? Don't see it as like pressures. Just see it as like, oh, I enjoy making stuff, so just make stuff.
Rick, thank you so much for being on the Downing Cut. I appreciate it. And I'm inspired by you. Thank you for the inspiration.
Thanks, man. Nice one.